Hello everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today, Using Research to Tell Your Impact Story. The first thing that I want to do is go over a couple of housekeeping items. The lines for the audience will be muted today for today's presentation until the question and answer section at the end of the webinar. If you are listening on the phone and watching on your computer, please put your phone down and turn your computer audio up and listen to the audio from the computer. Once we enter the Q&A section, we will go back to the phone lines. If you have questions at any time during our presentation today, you can use the chat function on the left-hand side of your screen. This presentation will be available on April 16th at getinvolved.gov. And with that, I would like to introduce the Director of Senior Corps, Dr. Irwin.
Welcome to our last webinar on the third annual Senior Corps Week. Today, this webinar is on research, both volunteering in America and the health benefits of volunteering. As a geriatrician, I saw for a number of my patients the health benefits of volunteering, where volunteering helped them as much as they were able to help their communities. Here at CNCS, we do research such as the Volunteering in America survey. We also want you to know about the other research on the health benefits of volunteering, so that when you approach your local media stations, you can not only tell the story of your own volunteers, but also talk about how your project fits in this larger national story on the health benefits of volunteering. So we want the media to know what you already know, that volunteering is not only about what you give, it's also about what you get in return.
All right, and now I would like to introduce our working team for today's webinar. We have Jan Newsom from the Office of Senior Corps, Jackie Aker from the Office of External Affairs, Ann Bensel from the Office of External Affairs, Nathan Dietz from the Office of Strategy, Sabrina Williams from GMMB, and I am Ned Irons, the moderator. And with that, I would like to introduce Jan Newsom.
Good afternoon. There's an abundance of research that exists online and in publications about older adult volunteering, the statistics and the benefits received. Today we'll talk about some of that research and how you can use it to tell your program story of impact. You'll get an overview of the research that's specific to 55-plus adult volunteering and some highlights about the health benefits that they receive from their volunteer activities. Then we'll give you some guidance on how to use that research to promote the impact of your program during Senior Corps Week. It's now my pleasure to introduce the person who's going to give you an overview of research, Nathan Dietz from our CNCS Office of Research and Evaluation. Nathan?
Well, thank you, Jan. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. As Jan mentioned, most of today's call is going to be devoted to a couple of large research projects that we've done in the past and one that we do every year. But both of those have something important to say about the benefits of volunteering for older adults and about the way volunteering happens among older adults nationally. And this research, I think, we found to be really useful in helping us make the case that volunteering is important for older adults, and hopefully, and we'll go into more detail about this later on, it's been important for people running the programs, especially the programs that give older adults volunteer opportunities, because it helps them advertise the value of their own programs. Our main goal when we work on a research project is to figure out how to get the media interested in the story of why volunteering is important for people in general and why it's especially important for older adults. We get that megaphone and we can really help to make a persuasive case for the value of programs like ours. The type of studies that I'm going to talk about here this afternoon help us demonstrate the impact of volunteering. First of all, the health benefits of volunteering in particular is what we're going to focus on, but in terms of service programs in general, we know that service is an important part of the way that people provide solutions to community problems in all sorts of ways. So, the research that we put out is devoted to helping make the case for service in general, even though the research that I'll talk about today is devoted to the benefits of being active in service on you, the volunteer. So research helps us demonstrate that impact. It also helps us tell a bigger story than we might be able to find out, than people might be able to learn just from looking at one program. Helps put what our programs do into more of a context, and help show that that our programs are part of a great national network full of people working on behalf of their communities. So that's how we use research. And now on the next slide, I'm going to start off with an overview on our Volunteering in America project, which is one that we do every year. Volunteering in America is a website, volunteeringinamerica.gov, that's devoted to producing and publishing annual statistics on volunteering. And Volunteering in America breaks the statistics down in many ways. One, we publish volunteering numbers of all different kinds by geographical area, nationally, by regions, by states, and by almost 200 major metropolitan areas. We also, on Volunteering in America, present volunteer trends, because we have, as of this year, 10 years worth of data annually on volunteer statistics. So we're able to see how volunteering has changed over time and the extent to which it has. VIA, the website, also shows you differences in volunteering statistics across different groups in the population, groups defined by age, by gender, by educational level. And it's the age differences that I'll focus on today. But VIA has breakdowns for all different sorts of groups. The website's also got a really nice collection of tools and resources, including links to research products that we produced, links to service opportunities, and other resources for you. The next page will show you, there we are, what the first homepage for Volunteering in America looks like. In the upper left, you'll see a map of the U.S., and clicking on that anywhere will show you volunteer statistics for the area that you clicked on, by state, region, or metropolitan area. And then below that, you'll find links to the profiles for population subgroups. So on the next slide, what are some of the key things that we ought to realize about volunteering among older adults? Well, first, we realize that volunteering rates are lower for older adults than they are for people who are adults but somewhat younger. Volunteering rates historically have tended to be the highest for adults who are in what we call midlife. That is roughly from your mid-30s to your mid-50s. And volunteering rates are medium high, I guess, for teenagers. They drop off for young adults who are college age, between 19 and 24, and they rise slowly until people reach midlife, and then they taper off somewhat as people get older than, say, their mid-50s. Why do volunteering rates decline among older adults? Well, you might think health benefits play the most important part in keeping people out of volunteering as they age. And it's true that health benefits matter, health problems do matter in terms of keeping people away from certain volunteer opportunities. But those who are in senior corps programs also know that people with disabilities aren't necessarily prevented from volunteering, they just do it differently. A couple other reasons is that volunteering opportunities are harder to come by for older adults. They're less likely to be parents, they're less likely to be working for a living, and they may have sort of fewer social networks that they're involved with, people that they meet on a regular basis. So they're less likely to find out about ways that people volunteer, and that's the most important driver for people into volunteering, is finding out about opportunities. But the good news about older adults is that when they do volunteer, they're more likely to provide regular service, and they're more likely to serve a lot of hours. than younger people are, and that's true for every single age group. Older adults have higher volunteer retention. That is, you volunteered last year and you also volunteered this year. And older adults serve more hours per capita than younger volunteers do. So, there are those statistics and more on volunteeringinamerica.gov, or our website, and we invite you to check that out. But the other main project that we want to focus on today is research that we've surveyed in the past that demonstrates the health benefits of volunteering for older Americans. It's not just, this isn't about what volunteers do, what older volunteers do, and how much service they give. This is research that's devoted to figuring out why volunteering is good for people, especially older folks. The report, which we put out, we first published back in 2007, shows that there is a strong relationship for older adults between volunteering and staying healthy. Now, when we say strong, what we mean is that it shows up in a variety of studies and across a variety of contexts, and over time, volunteering ends up making a difference, on positive difference for health. It ends up making a difference over and above other factors, controlling for other reasons that are important drivers of health. Volunteering seems to matter. And the relationship is strong because you see various types of benefits coming out of the research. Volunteering is shown to improve physical health, mental health, and emotional health, all told. What we find in the research also is that volunteering has more of an impact on older adults than it does for younger adults. Volunteering is good for everybody, and we focus on volunteering in part because if you get younger people involved, then they'll stay involved, and it will provide opportunities for them, and it will also provide a gateway to make them more productive citizens as they become older and more established in their communities. But in terms of health benefits, older adults are the ones that are most likely to receive greater benefits from volunteering. And in part that's because volunteering provides so many different types of benefits, physical, mental, and emotional, that and because those types of benefits are connected to everybody, but especially for older people, that people who volunteer tend to realize maybe all those types of benefits, and since they all feed each other, that's very good for older adults. So. On the next slide, I want to focus on a couple of key findings from this brief. The first is the statement that volunteering keeps healthy people healthy. If you look at the research and you think about the ways in which you could show that volunteering helps improve people's health, you realize that right away, you might first need to deal with the idea that most of the people who volunteer, especially among older adults, are the healthiest ones, and that's not true across the board. But you're more likely to volunteer if you're already healthy. So how do you show that the benefits of volunteering, that volunteering actually does improve health? There are ways to separate out the impact of being a volunteer on people's health, and what the research tends to show is that while there's an obvious connection between being healthy and volunteering, there's also a lot of evidence that shows that volunteering will keep you healthy by preserving your health and preventing it from dropping off as much as it does for non-volunteers. And that's what we mean by volunteering keeps healthy people healthy. We see also in the research that the more engaged older people are in community-related activities like volunteering, the less likely they are to suffer from depression. Partly that's because volunteering involves both your mind and your body, and depression is as much a physical ailment as it is an emotional one. But volunteering, the studies show, tends to make a difference over and above all the other types of social and caregiving activities that older adults might be involved in. So, there's something special about volunteering that tends to have an impact on people's health. But the research also shows that volunteering you need to volunteer more than just once in a while and more than just a few minutes at a time in order to realize these positive benefits. A lot of studies vary in terms of what the exact number is, but 100 hours is about the minimum that studies show people need to serve in order to realize positive health benefits, especially physical health benefits. Studies show that if you volunteer, many hours, that it could possibly have a negative impact on your health, a slightly negative impact on your health. But the studies show without a doubt that you need to serve more than once in a while in order to achieve these types of benefits. Fourth, the studies tend to show that in terms of providing social support to each other, it's better to give than to receive. The effects of volunteering in terms of just checking in on others and providing care to others are greater on the volunteer than they are to the recipient of volunteering services. Now, obviously, this is not true for every type of volunteering. Senior companions and other types of health aides, of course, you're going to have a serious impact on the patients and the clients that they serve. But in general, when it comes to the effects of staying healthy that are brought on by social interaction, volunteering has more of an impact than being attended to. Finally, and this is pretty important, but there is research out there that shows that volunteers tend to live longer than non-volunteers, controlling for other factors. And we want to stop short of saying that this is proof that volunteering, provides you with a reduced risk of mortality or, less chance of dying in the short run, because there's nothing that's rigorous enough to really establish that. There's nothing like a random assignment study that takes older adults and makes certain of them volunteer and prevents others of them from volunteering. There's research that does a pretty good job, though, of separating out the impact of volunteering, controlling for other factors, and showing that volunteers do tend to live longer, controlling for other factors. So that was the brief that we published in 2007. There's also been a lot of research that's been produced since then, and they've taken the research in some new directions. First, and I just want to mention a couple of them, although the research has gone in a bunch of different directions. First, people have tried to figure out what type of roles are most important for older adults to fill by volunteering. We know that older adults, for instance, are less likely to be involved in some of the main roles that they've inhabited for most of their lives. They're less likely to work for pay, less likely to have kids in the household. They're less likely to maybe have the same group of friends that they used to have. They search for other opportunities, and when older adults do find other opportunities to fill these helping roles, then they end up better off. They end up better off mentally, emotionally, and physically. The research shows that volunteering, that being involved at all in helping behaviors helps your health, but the more types of roles you're involved with, the better. And there's a lesson there for those of us who are worried about work-life balance, being involved in one activity excessively and maybe burning out on it. You can help, in certain ways, but you might not end up helping yourself as much as you did as if you were involved in other activities. And the research on volunteering tends to show that that's true for older adults. One thing we don't know, I think, as much about as we could, is what type of program models end up being most effective for producing health benefits for volunteers. We know that older adults, like younger adults, volunteer in all sorts of different ways and do all kinds of things for the organizations that they're serving with. But which activities and which types of contexts are most important for producing, health benefits? There's been one program that's been studied pretty extensively, an AmeriCorps program of ours called Experience Corps, and that's a much more intensive volunteering program than most programs for older adults tend to be. It's also been pretty heavily studied, and there's a lot of research that shows that the Experience Corps model is an effective one. But for other service program models, there's a lot less evidence, and speaking hopefully for Senior Corps project directors who might be listening, we could, that's an area where there's a gap in the research. We could use more research on that. Finally, there's a really interesting strand of research that shows that goes into the medical reasons. Just why is volunteering good for the mind and good for the body? And there are a couple of different factors that people have explored. One is that if you just stay involved with other people more often, social interaction is good for you in a lot of different ways. Research has shown that with Experience Corps especially, that if you get up and around a lot more often as an older adult, then you're just more physically active, and that helps your health in general. It helps your mental and emotional health too. Exercising does, and just being physically active. But there's also research that shows that volunteering puts you in a positive emotional state that makes your brain operate differently, and improves cognitive functions. Makes you feel better, which makes you feel better physically as well, and makes you just makes your mind and body operate a little bit more efficiently. And that's the most interesting research of all to me. It shows that the medical reasons why volunteering is good for you. So when you get a chance after this talk, check out some of the resources that I've mentioned in my discussion today. Volunteering in America, the website, volunteeringinamerica.gov. The health benefits reports that we published in 2007, and also two very, very good surveys of recent literature on the health benefits of volunteering. One by Dr. Nancy Morrow Howell on the research frontiers of volunteering involving volunteering in later life, and the second by medical doctor, not just a PhD, Stephen Post, who does a good job of surveying the medical literature on health benefits. So, again, thank you for joining us all. Oh, sorry, we got one more slide after this. I just want to mention quickly that Volunteering in America, the new website, is hopefully going to be available later this fall. So the old website is available at the same address, but look for the new statistics later on this year. Now I want to introduce Sabrina Williams, my colleague, who's going to talk about how ways in which you can make this research valuable for you and your programs.
Thank you, Nathan. Good afternoon. So really, how can you use this research? There are a number of ways in which you can do that, whether it's through engaging the media and leveraging Senior Corps Week and Older Americans Month, as well as promoting the programs to your local stakeholders, in addition to attracting new volunteers. And I think it's really helpful to think of this research as providing each of you a timely vehicle to have these important conversations about the amazing work that's happening on the ground in your respective communities. It allows for folks to prioritize Senior Corps Week and Older Americans Month as a national opportunity to raise the visibility of Senior Corps, but more importantly, it really is an opportunity to highlight the contributions of Senior Corps volunteers and encourage more Americans 55 and over to serve. Telling your Senior Corps story to the media. This research can really be used to help leverage the programmatic work that you are currently undertaking. So make sure that when you're looking at the research that Nathan just discussed a little bit, tying that in with anecdotes and those really compelling on-the-ground stories that I know each and every one of you have. Infuse that in your talking points, in your press releases, any media alerts that, or any other types of communiques that you may be sending out. Infuse those stories along with the research. I mean, the reality is we know that each of these individuals that volunteer with you bring unique skills and experiences and wisdom to address critical challenges in your communities, whether it's tutoring or helping veterans and military families transition into civilian life. So we really want to use the research to amplify some really important core narratives. Promote Senior Corps to local stakeholders. Again, this is a conversation. People who are local in your community should know about the amazing work that's happening. So think about developing a one-pager or some type of leave behind that you can use, as well as scheduling meetings with local stakeholders. and promoting the anecdotes and the research. At a time of growing social and economic need, Senior Corps volunteers are playing an indispensable role in meeting national and community needs, and your local stakeholders should be made aware of this. This research also provides an opportunity to attract new Senior Corps volunteers and to retain your current volunteer base. So as you're developing your recruiting materials, make sure to include these research findings in those materials, as well as promoting these findings through your various social networks like your Facebooks, Twitters, and any newsletters and other e-blasts that you may have going out. May have going out. In addition to which, we really shouldn't think of this research as just a moment in time, or Senior Corps Week as a moment in time. This research can really be beneficial in any additional outreach that you do throughout the year. So leverage it beyond Senior Corps Week and Older Americans Month, and let it stretch. It'll give you a lot more bang for your buck if you do that. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Anne to talk a little bit about how we really use research in storytelling.
Hi everybody, this is Anne Benzel, and we wanted to share with you a sample of storytelling that uses research in an effective way. This example happens to be for an RSVP program, but it's an example that can apply across all Senior Corps programs. So what we did to help celebrate the 40th anniversary of RSVP is we created a video, and in the clip we're about to show you, you'll see a principal describing how RSVP volunteers helped raise the reading rates and the reading scores in her school. So when we interviewed her, we asked her specifically to include numbers and research to make her point. And we think this is a great example of how a third-person party or an expert, such as a principal or
if you do not learn how to read, you cannot do anything else in life.
Research shows that students who are at or above grade level in kindergarten and first grade are far more likely to have greater success in not only their educational career, but in all facets of life. Soledad Ramirez is a principal who knows this firsthand. 60% of her students come from economically disadvantaged families or are labeled at risk.
A teacher has 22 children in the classroom. We have some children that need additional help. The RSVP people come in and work with the children one-on-one, and that one-on-one attention to them is what's the most important. When RSVP volunteers come in, they accelerate the children. They will start on a 4 and then accelerate all the way to a 19 reading level in 1 year. So they are providing a lot of added instruction to the children, and they always stay that way. If you get on level, you stay on level.
Okay. So why use research? When I think about this, I kind of come up with 3 top-level things. And as Anne mentioned earlier, one thing that really lends credibility to your issue and serves as a third-party validator. So it takes, your anecdotes and really adds a third-party independent person or independent data, to this overall anecdote. So it really serves as that third-party validator. It positions national service as one of importance, that there are folks out there doing this research, and that national service and volunteering is incredibly important and part of what folks should be doing. And finally, I believe it really takes the storytelling and the anecdotes and really makes them a little more rich and compelling, just adding that additional texture to your stories. I think research can help you do all of those things and a lot more. And what you're about to listen to next is an audio news release from last year's Senior Corps with Dr. Tan and that's just one of many tactics in which you can take the research and apply it. So with that, I will ask for us to play the audio clip.
1 in 4 American adults age 55 and older volunteer their time through mentoring and tutoring children, responding to natural disasters, and helping other seniors live independently. Many participate in one of 3 Senior Corps programs administered by the Corporation for National and Community Service: Foster Grandparents, RSVP, and Senior Companions. Senior Corps Director Dr. Irwin Tan says the programs have engaged millions of older Americans for more than 40 years and are addressing critical needs in our communities.
In fact, older adults contribute more than 3 billion hours of service, worth $64 billion in their communities each year. Because volunteers tackle tough problems to help those most in need, senior volunteer service is a vital investment for our nation, now and in the future.
Dr. Tan says volunteerism also allows older Americans to remain active and healthy. Research shows people who volunteer have lower mortality rates, greater functional ability, and lower rates of depression and disease later in life. To learn more about Senior Corps, visit getinvolved.gov.
And what you see on the next slide is are examples of the coverage that we were able to garner from using the A&R. So we took an A&R and leveraged it in other ways, and it made getting print stories a lot easier because we had the data and we used one media tactic and leveraged it into another. So that's what you're seeing on slide 20. So with that, I will turn it back over to Ned.
Great, thank you. We are hopeful that everyone got some great tips about how to use research to tell your impact story, and we're shortly going to open it up to questions and answers. But the one thing that we wanted to make sure to remind everybody about is that we want to make sure that everybody is sharing your good work with us. Please share your stories of impact from both Senior Corps Week and beyond at seniorcorpsstories@cns.gov. And with that, I would like to start to migrate over to the question and answer section. If you've been listening on the computer, you can, when I'm done, turn the computer audio down and pick up your phone. If you've yet to dial in, please dial in to 1-866-506-1209 and use the passcode 9205709. And I am going to encourage everyone to do that. In the interim, as you all are dialing over, I'm going to ask a few questions that have been typed in during our webinar today. One question is, and this is for Nathan, how have people used the health benefits research in the past?
Yeah. Well, but I just want to say that this report has been like an Energizer bunny. You know, it just every year somebody comes across it in a search engine or something and finds things in there, that finds a good survey of the literature that shows why volunteering is good for you, and as well as being good for communities. And we answer at least a few press calls about the health benefits of volunteering every year, and sometimes it's more than that. It's seasonal, but this is a report that's been really, really useful for the press over the course of time, over the past few years since we put it out first. So hopefully it has been for project directors too. I think that and other people who are involved with seniors and older adults and volunteering, because it's part of it should be important research that helps support the mandate that you're working under.
Great, thanks, Nathan. With that, I would like to turn it over to the operator. The operator has a couple of instructions.
Certainly. The floor is now open for questions. If you do have a question, please press the number 7 on your telephone keypad. Questions will be taken in the order they were received. If at any point your question has been answered, you may press 7 again to disable your request. If you're using a speakerphone, we ask that while posing your question you pick up your handset to provide favorable sound quality. Please hold while we wait for participants to queue up for a question.
Great, thank you. Another question while we wait for people to queue up, we had a question come in about the RSVP video with the principal and whether people could use that on the local level, the answer is absolutely. Please use it on the local level. You can find that video and lots of other resources at getinvolved.gov. So again, that video and lots of other resources are available at getinvolved.gov, and we would love for everyone to use them on the local level.
There are no questions in the queue at this time. Again, if you do have a question, please press the number 7 on your telephone keypad.
So we have another question that just came in that I believe could be written for the folks in External Affairs at CNCS. And the question is, does anyone have ideas or copies of letters to send to the volunteer stations encouraging them to write media articles for National Volunteer Week? Is there a site we can go to find it?
So this is Anne, and what I would say is I'm not sure about National Volunteer Week. I mean, we are trying to promote Senior Corps Week, which we have a lot of articles and sample ideas on how to get to the media on getinvolved.gov. But one good thing you can do is tie in National Volunteer Week to your program story. So if you had a story idea that you wanted to pitch to the media this week, you know, you could say, here is a great example for you to use during National Volunteer Week. You know, my program is doing this, this, and that, and incorporate some of the research and impact. Or you could also save that flyer and use it for Senior Corps Week as well. And the toolkit that you'll find on the website, it's called the Impact Guide, is evergreen, so you can use it throughout the year for any event or occasion you want to try to promote your program.
That's a great point, and I would just add on that while we have been focused on Senior Corps Week and Older Americans Month, I think that the tips and the information found on getinvolved.gov is really useful across the year and across programs, and that a lot of the tips can be used for multi-purpose as opposed to just during this time of year.
There are no questions in the queue at this time. Again, if you do have a question, please press the number 7 on your telephone keypad.
All right, if there are no further questions, we will go ahead and conclude this webinar. I want to thank everybody for participating. Again, you can find this webinar at getinvolved.gov. It will be posted on April 16th. Thank you very much for your time.